The laptop, yeah, just adjust the screen down a little bit, yeah. Thank you, Ben.
Oh, is this
You
your
got
first time? This is city-owned property.
Okay, but do you guys have a presentation that you can?
Even she said. I sent it to Dante earlier through email.
Oh, okay.
Is there a way
You
I
don't
can?
have it on, do you have it on a USB key by any
No, I
chance?
don't have a flash drive, but I can send it to.
Send to the CV9 email.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get that.
Because
to you.
sometimes staff is a problem.
No, I don't think it will when we share on here. It'll be fine.
Okay.
If you share it there, yeah, it would be better.
Yeah,
Okay. But she needs to share it from something.
yeah, it's usually over here, so it's just. The CV9 email, when you're ready for it?
Oh, right.
Oh, I'm talking to.
Good evening.
Okay, well,
Share
the
the email.
It's BKLYN CV9@gmail.com.
Got it. Thank you.
I was hoping you could see that.
So while we're waiting, for that, why don't we approve the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes for today?
Yeah.
Any corrections requested? Did you, comments?
Let me get it.
Need a copy of the minutes?
Attendance is good.
By the way, welcome everyone. This is the June meeting for Community Board 9's ULURP and Land Use Committee. It's our last meeting of the session. So I want to thank the whole team for sticking with us the whole year, for all of their hard work, coming out and really being very thoughtful about all of the issues. And so we'll do the minutes. Tell me what part do you want changed?
My comment under C, 4C, I don't remember saying.
Okay, you want me to strike that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll strike that. Anything else?
And this was all just discussion, we didn't make any decisions. The ULURP.
No, we didn't pass any resolutions.
Did that letter go out to the Department of Social Services yet?
It did, I believe Dante did send it out, and we got the fair share analysis, which you all got a copy of.
Which was data from 2015,
And we'll discuss that later. It's just,
not recent data. Kind of terrible analysis.
okay, if there's no other comments or questions, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
by Hector. Okay, can we approve by common consent? Yes,
Yeah.
with Nicola's amendment?
Nicola's comment. Did it happen?
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. So now if we do do have the presentation. Sophia,
Yes.
do you wanna take it away?
Sure.
We have HPD and the developers from 141 Montgomery, speaking about the new building.
Yeah. Where should I guess I can stand there and click through the presentation if that works.
You can take my seat if you like.
No, that's okay, I can stand. Whoever wants to join from Appy.
Sure.
Yeah.
You have to go over there.
That's easy.
If you could all stand there, they can see you on the camera. Like all the way. This is perfect for you.
Okay.
See?
Yep.
Yeah, good minute.
Right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Sophia Matheny, and I'm a planner on the Brooklyn planning team at HPD. And I'm joined here by our development team, some members from Appy and from UAI. So we're here to just kind of do a first touch point on the 141 Montgomery Street project. We're still in the earlier stages of this project, so this is just our first touch point. So we'll definitely be back and we'll get into that later.
You want to screen it so you can read through the slides, just do them like over.
Yeah, let me try and figure it out.
Is the property Montgomery corner Franklin?
Yeah, Franklin and Washington, and Montgomery.
I'm not sure. I'll just wait. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So just to give some quick background on the project and the development site. So the site was originally a part of a larger cluster of city-owned sites. That was, they were disposed by the city in 1997 to facilitate a rehabilitation project. So the rehabilitation project was never completed. The building that was located on a portion of the lot was demolished, and so the site remains vacant today. In 2014, the two previously city-owned lots, which are lots 46 and 48, were transferred to the project sponsor, Appy. And so Appy was also able to acquire lot 50 to create a more feasible development site. And so because the sites were originally disposed to facilitate a rehabilitation project that was ultimately never completed, the city intends to reacquire lots 46 and 48 through the ULURP process to facilitate the development of a new construction building with approximately 93 affordable rental units and community facility space. And so ULURP is the land use public approvals process available to HPD to reacquire and convey the previously city-owned lots to an HPD selected developer for the purpose of developing housing for low-income households. And so before I get into the project overview, as I mentioned before, there are some elements of the project proposal that are still being developed. But as of now, the project proposal includes a 17-story mixed-use building with approximately 93 affordable rental units, up to 80% of AMI, with 14 units set aside for formerly homeless households and some community facility space. So the unit mix will consist of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. The project sponsor is Appy, and the project applicant will be HPD. The project will be using HPD's new construction finance program, which supports the construction of 100% affordable multifamily rental projects. And so the proposed actions here would be the acquisition of the 2 previously city-owned lots by the city. So that's lots 46 and 48. And then the disposition of a portion of the development site, including lots 46 and 48. And we are anticipating an ULURP start or an E-start around Q4 of this year. So just to give some information on the location and context of the site, it's located at 137 to 145 Montgomery Street on block 1190 and lots 46, 48, and 50. The site currently has a zoning designation of R8X with a C24 overlay. And just for some additional context, back in 2018, a rezoning was approved for 2.5 blocks along Franklin Avenue, which includes this development site. So the rezoning from that in 2018 changed the zoning from an R6A district to its current designation, which is R8X with a C24 overlay. The site is about 9,268 square feet and it's currently vacant. It's about 0.4 miles away from Prospect Park. And regarding access to public transit, the site is about 0.1 miles away from the Washington Avenue / Montgomery Street stop along the B48, and then it's about 0.3 miles away from the Franklin Ave Medgar stop. So now I can pass it over to the development team to introduce themselves.
Yes, hi. My name is Andrea Alexopoulos, and I work for AFI, which stands for Asian Americans for Equality. AFI is a community development corporation headquartered in Lower Manhattan. AFI started out about 50 years ago advocating for workers' rights in Lower Manhattan when a developer came in to build Confucius Plaza and they weren't going to hire any local Chinese workers. So the community rallied around to try to pressure the city to force the developers to hire local workers, and it worked. So over time, AFI kind of morphed into a community services organization, and in the late 80s started to get involved in acquiring and preserving affordable housing, mostly in Lower East Side Chinatown. Some of these older tenement buildings AFI has acquired and preserved over the years as affordable. AFI was also involved in the first low-income housing tax credit project in New York City in the late 80s. So AFI is sort of like a long-standing affordable housing developer in the community. And in recent decades, AFI's work is expanded across the whole city. We have services, we offer community services, wraparound services for senior citizens. We have small business lending services. We have a CDFI that works with local businesses to try to help them capacity build and take on loans and expand their business. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for the community. So obviously AFI is looking here to develop 100% affordable building. This is what we do. We're affordable developers, and we're here to kind of try to expand all the affordable housing that we know is so kind of limited in the city.
Good evening, everyone. My name is George Chang. I am a principal at Urban Architectural Initiatives, UAI. We are a approximately 30-person architecture, planning, and interior design firm based in Lower Manhattan. The bulk or the primary focus of our work is actually to serve nonprofit, community-based, and mission-based organizations, developers doing affordable and supportive housing throughout the city. We've also done a couple of community facilities, houses of worship, community centers, but our primary focus is affordable housing and supportive housing. We do both ground up work as well as preservation of existing housing, and we're here engaged by AFI to help design this building.
Can I ask a question? I noticed that your work has been primarily in the Lower East Side, or do you have experience in Brooklyn, or is this one of your first projects in Brooklyn?
Yes. So it's kind of like our origin story is Lower East Side Chinatown. We do have projects in Brooklyn. We have a project right now in Brooklyn that's in my neighborhood in Bay Ridge. It's a homeownership, so AFI actually also kind of specializes in affordable homeownership as well. So there's a project that we're working with HPD. That was actually a very high profile case of a developer coming in and setting up a condo. He told everybody it was a condo, and he started to take money from people, but it wasn't actually filed with the Attorney General of the state. So then he left the country, and it was a largely immigrant population that didn't understand these paperwork processes. So now they're renters, they have nothing, and they lost their life savings. So actually, the Attorney General Tish James came to AFI because it was largely Chinese immigrant families. So they were looking for a group that was kind of like culturally competent and could help them get through this process. So AFI has been working with the Attorney General and HPD and HCR, and we acquired that building from the landlord that had it over leveraged. And now we're working to convert it to an affordable co-op. It's a lot of work, that one. Actually, George worked on that one too. So that's a doozy that we're working on right now. That one should be completed sometime next year.
Good evening, my name is Joanne, I'm the Deputy Executive Director. I get to talk about the previous engagement. I will say, it's my first community meeting as a deputy because I've been at this job for 6 months. So this is a little new to me, but so please give me a little grace. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our previous engagement. We have engaged Councilmember Hudson's office to talk about this potential project. That was in April 2023. We also talked with the Council Members District on land use framework in February 2024, and also with her office on providing some updates after the incorporation feedback, the land use framework, and also updating the office on passive house design and community facility space that was in March 2025. And we continue to talk to the council member's office, not necessarily with the council member, but with her staff, just giving a regular update about this is in progress. They are curious about what's going on. So we said this, we're communicating, we're presenting to the community board, we want to have a continued conversation. I think one of the most important conversations that we had with Councilmember Hudson's office is on who are the community engagement, who are the community stakeholders that we need to start from, who do we need to talk to, and we know that with affordable housing programs, really we're very committed to making sure that the community really benefits from this. So who do we outreach to ensure that the community knows about it? We get a lot of applications when we're ready. So we have a preliminary list from the council member. So we, the stakeholders that we plan to engage: First Baptist Church of Crown Heights, Medgar Evers College, Tivoli Towers, Evansfield Apartments, Jackie Robinson School, and Evansfield Middle School. And while we're sharing this information, I'm also going to ask you, who else should we be talking to? I think we need to get as many stakeholders as possible, as many community leaders as possible, because we do need input. We do need to get the word out. So while we're happy to share this information, I'm also here to solicit your help, because it's going to be a very busy summer for us here, working on the ground, being able to.
So how are you planning on doing that?
We will call up all the stakeholders. We're happy to be here, talk to them, introduce ourselves, present the project, ask, this is what the project is. What kind of input can you give us? How can we work together? How do we get the word out to the community? So.
Just off the top of my head, I want to ask Full Gospel Assembly. They're a very active church on Sullivan and in Bedford that also has a building very close to this site on Franklin. So they'd be really worth contacting.
That'd be great.
They have they're very active.
Thank you.
Full Gospel.
I don't know if I have a correct name, is Crown Heights Development Organization. I think Colin Martinez is one of them.
But that's another local development. They are the developer.
What's that?
They're a developer.
They're the developer.
No, but sometimes there's like the alliance, like the local.
groups.
So we have a committee member, actually, who's not here tonight, from Crown Heights Tenants Union. So that would be a very key group, I think, to engage.
Great.
You mentioned that the previous project, you had condos, right? Instead of rentals. This project was all rental.
Correct. That was co-op, yeah.
Any reason why you would consider turning this building into a co-op?
So homeownership is very tough in the city for developers and affordable homeownership. That project specifically, this Ovington project in Brooklyn, was a homeownership. It was like they were trying to purchase their units. So there was like this piece of it that was like trying to finish what was started. We are always open to sites like this and approaching them and exploring ownership. From what I've seen in the years of doing this, these new construction sites are very hard to do with ownership, and they can be very expensive. It's usually, I think I heard somebody from HPD describe it as you can do a rental unit for about $300,000 a unit in subsidy, but they need $600,000 a unit to do homeownership. That's just the math. So it's a bigger ask from the city. It's a little bit of a harder hill to climb.
It's a bigger up front. It's a bigger hill to climb, but long term, it works out much better for the person buying the condo because they build equity and.
We agree, and that's why we've been pushing the city to invest more in affordable homeownership programs. And I think that I feel like the new thing from the mayor was like nominal amount, is like 2,000 out of the 100,000 whatever homeownership. It doesn't get enough love, and we're having those conversations right now with the city because this is an area where AFI is very active and we see the results. We have 4 buildings right now that we're like about to convert to co-op in Manhattan. And these are major life events for people. It's a resources issue, I think, ultimately.
Just to let you know, Crown Gardens, which is across the street from us here, is at Mitchell Lama with their affordable units. They just opened up their wait list. And I think everybody here was really excited about the opportunity to get really affordable co-op.
Yeah, so we just had one in Chelsea. I think it was like 1,100 applicants for each market. Just math.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
What do you consider affordable?
For a rental?
Well, the affordability levels are set through HUD, which I'm sure you're aware of. It's the Housing and Urban Development. It's a federal agency, and they're the ones who set the AMI levels that then reflect how we kind of like, rank out our different HPD financing programs. So in terms of the affordability for this project, we have a slide on that. So if Joanne, if you wanted to speak to the land use framework, and then I can definitely speak more on the affordability of the project.
So for this is in our meetings with Councilmember Hudson, we also met with Hester Street about their survey and the community feedback. So this building design was thought of after those conversations. So the thought process was to incorporate these community survey priorities in the building design. So for our project, it's a little confusing, this chart, so I reminded myself last week about it. So, okay, that's right, so we're option A for affordability, and for the criteria, we can go into what we're focusing on, but we selected a passive house design because we know that is something that the community wishes, the focus on sustainability. Also ADA upgrades. This is something that I've experienced in other ULURP presentations in the communities where they request more accessible units than is required by law, like the minimum, you have to have 5%. So we will do double that. It's more accessible units. It's like not nominal cost, but it's like creating more units for these populations that are very limited in the city. But just to so this is what guided our design of this building, is this framework from your community.
What's the pricing with, I don't know.
There's a slide at the end.
Yeah, we're getting there. We got a little sidetracked.
What's square footage, can you tell us square footage, because that's a pretty small lot, you're putting over there 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom.
Yeah,
What size of these?
if you wanna speak to the sustainability and design and that we can get there.
So
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna follow.
So proposed is an approximately 83,000 square feet, 17-story with cellar mixed-use building.
17-story?
17. With over 90 affordable housing units and a ground floor community facility space. The building will meet all aspects of the New York City zoning resolution and will take advantage of the ultra-low energy building floor area bonus by exceeding the New York City Energy Code by a minimum of 15%. The proposed development will be designed as an all-electric building and will pursue passive house certification as well as to meet the enterprise green communities criteria. The building will incorporate a rooftop solar array, green roofs as part of the stormwater management design. So right now we're in the latter stages of schematic design and early design development, which means that we're still fairly early in the design. We are working on facade studies at this point. And we understand and we recognize that this part of Crown Heights is changing due to new developments in the neighborhood. The overall building facade design strives to be contemporary and contextual to the existing and new buildings in the community. So, not shown here, but in previous slides, the facade materials that we're currently considering are brick and rain screen at the street-facing facades, and brick or ephes at the rear facades.
Will there be any parking?
There will not be any parking because we're within the parking, the transit zone.
So you're gonna have how many apartments?
Approximately
90, and no parking,
17 floors.
and 17 floors.
So, again, as of right, zoning wise, we're not required to provide parking. So,
One second, did you just say you care about what the community needs? So this is like a huge thing, what the community needs.
Correct.
so
we're not talking about zoning rights, we're talking about what does the community need?
And that's why we're here today, this is our first, moment introducing you to the team and introducing you to the project. This is what we wanna hear what your thoughts are. I could give a little bit of context regarding parking. Yes, it's not required by zoning, and in general, it tends to be very expensive to provide. So in affordable housing projects, it's not the top of our priority. And the projects that do have parking usually have a lot of there's a lot of weighing other priorities and what we can, in terms of affordability, in terms of family size units and other amenities in the building. So right now we are not proposing that.
I have 2 really fast questions for you. The first one is, if you were to add parking to this, how would that affect the pricing of the units? And secondly, are all 93 units affordable, or is there any like market rate or non-restricted bucket units in this building?
So this building is 100% affordable. It's using the new construction finance program, which is used for multi-family rental buildings. We can speak to our finance teams who, have a little bit more insight to how it affects the affordability. But our subsidy, generally, we're trying to provide more units and larger units and more affordable units. We aren't really, we are not prioritizing making parking with our subsidy. But we can provide a little more insight, we can look into it more. Another question?
I do.
So that was what tech.
Okay.
So my question is, because I represent DP and I work for the city, so here we have employees that make as low as 40,000. That's the community. So I need to know. That's why I'm asking you. What do you consider affordable?
Right.
Because our thought is low income.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Sorry, can we just finish up
Let's go
talking about the building?
right.
Because I know you guys went to jump into the affordability aspect, but
Yeah,
I do also want to
square
mention that.
footage also,
Yes.
the
Yeah,
farm.
square footage of the
Yes,
unit, like approximate
So-
square footage. of the
So
unit.
approximate square footages for studios is about 350 square feet for one bedrooms.
That's
Oh,
That's
that's tiny, that's a closet.
Finish up this.
Is that a homeless shelter or what?
So that's a studio. That assumes a single, resident. And then there are, for the one bedrooms, those are approximately 500 square feet. Some are gonna be a little bigger. Generally 500 is like on the low end. And then for the two bedrooms, we're approximately 700 square feet.
And with that, I also wanna add that they have to adhere to our HPD design guidelines. We know it's not the largest units, but they do exceed building codes, so they're bigger than market rate generally. They also have guidelines that require storage, so if you ever go in an HPD apartment, you will see a lot of storage that a lot of other, New York City housing does not have. And I think that generally lends to a space that is free of clutter in your other living spaces. But we could get maybe a range, because I know that if you get an average, it might tend to make it seem less, but we can get a range and maybe also provide some example floor plans of those units.
Is this gonna be higher than the building next door, or it's the same height? It looks like
Approximately,
it's story 17, because I counted 16 in
it's
the rendering.
it's approximately the same height.
Okay, that's good.
It's not gonna be, it's not taller, for sure.
And then you're going right up to the sidewalk, right?
We're, so on Montgomery, we are at the sidewalk. Just, it's very important to note that we are not actually at the corner of Franklin. So the neighboring building
yeah,
has a little
yes.
sliver.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you mean, it's like a ramp there.
Right, so there's a little sliver that doesn't, that belongs to the Logan
Right,
property.
I know what you
And
mean.
so even though they don't have it developed, that sliver lot, or that little sliver finger portion of their lot, we're not technically at the corner, but although that east facing facade, assuming that there's no development on that sliver lot, is going to be fairly visible.
But just one thing that you might wanna include in your design that's an issue in that area is that bikes, motorcycle, all the scooters, like there's a problem with, except the field is right there, so many people live there, there's not, I was actually hoping that this lot, when I was looking at it, I thought it was pretty road and they were gonna put a garden and all of that in there, like, the garbage, the bikes, all of that needs space as well, so I would personally like to see that included in the design, like parking for those.
So
Front yard setback.
Yeah, because there's a lot of scooters and motorcycles
So,
and everything in that
we
area.
can talk about the building amenities, how's that?
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt, as we asked about the parking, my name is Cheryl Bernard.
Right.
We have a lot of presentations from companies, right, and they all say, we wanna give what the community needs, and we hear that all the time. Not to be rude, but the driving force is money, right? Just to be real. And the community definitely needs parking, but I would like to say it's the first time I've ever heard of there being a wheelchair accessible apartment, which is really good.
Yes.
But there are people with wheelchairs that have cars, so they have to park a million miles away and wheelchair, it's what our community needs is really no more buildings, but we're going there, but it's happening, we understand that.
Yes, it's very.
Everything is happening in this community.
We don't need more apartments.
And they all say, we're trying to give with the community. Unity needs. And then there's probably not gonna be anyone from the community getting in the building, but that's another story. But you're having wheelchair accessible rooms and no parking. The community needs parking.
We do.
If we are going to have another building, soon we're not gonna see the sky, I say that all the time. So I would just ask that you all think of putting some type of parking, especially if you're creating wheelchair mobility rooms. I can understand, and I think Ethan did ask, what is the cost difference if we were to add a parking, that was not answered. So I know you wanna continue, I just wanna put that in your head when you're thinking about going forward. Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanna plant that seed, just to let you all know.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that back to our finance team, because as Amara said, they're the ones who kind of work through the underwriting and weigh out costs and everything. So we can definitely get a better picture of what the trade-off would be, because as Amara mentioned, we do have a limited amount of funding.
Of course, yeah.
We always want to prioritize more units, but I definitely hear you and needing some parking to accommodate that.
And when City of Yes started this whole debacle,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that they said is that, the parking mandate is canceled. However, each developer will take into consideration where they're building and meet the needs of the community. This is something that, but no developer is taking into consideration the needs of the community. Everyone is focused on, I know it costs money for you all, I understand. And technically, I really wish everyone would stop saying, we want to meet the needs of the community, because it does not. It really does not. It does not.
Okay, so in terms of the amenities that are being proposed for the residents, that includes a fitness room, community room, bicycle parking, laundry room with park views and access to roof terraces. And at the ground floor, the community room will also access a landscaped and furnished rear yard. So it is a small lot, so it's somewhat limited in terms of, it's a balance of like how many we can only give so many units, and we also want to provide quality amenity spaces that make living in the building.
If I may ask a quick question about parking here, just since I'm hearing a lot of talk about that. Two small ones. One, how many parking spots do you think would fit on a lot that size if you were to add them? And secondly, I heard you mention earlier about not adding the transit area. Can you describe what neighborhoods you would add parking in, and not kind of exclude them?
So the current zoning designates areas that are transit zones, and then there are areas that are outside the transit zone, right? I didn't write that up.
No, I agree.
Right? Somebody did their research and they said this is close to the train, this is close to the bus, this is not close to the train, this is not close to the bus, right? Somebody did that. So for instance, like Staten Island, right? You gotta provide parking.
Right.
And so sometimes that's not even and I would probably argue that many of us would probably argue that it's not even that's inadequate, right? Because it's like, you're gonna only provide 25% of or parking for 25% of the population or number of dwelling units, right? Again, I don't make those rules.
I understand.
I don't make the rules for the financing either. So we're trying to provide housing. We're trying to put roofs over people and not necessarily roofs over cars. I think those are the priorities, right? We have to weigh what's more important.
Can I ask a question?
Could I the amenities, are they at the cellar level, like the gym, the community?
The gym is in the cellar. The bike parking is in the cellar.
Community room is on the ground floor. Okay, and then obviously the laundry room is above, is like a high floor. Okay, so if you are, I know I have been told before that parking doesn't get financed with affordable housing programs and that it caught a lot of developers in check because they're gonna have to dig a deep basement for parking. But if you're already digging a cellar, maybe something to consider is whether the community prefers a gym or parking. You know, and you're obviously gonna talk to other community groups as well, but we are right next to Prospect Park, the Bedford Armory is there, people have options for gym.
Right,
But parking is something that they desperately want. Is that something that would be feasible, do you think, to
We would have to explore that, there is we'll take it back and assess.
Okay.
So,
I think that
I do wanna answer the
Wait, I
question
just
about
wanted just
how
one
many-
question before that. So we have a building that's just going up there, that's a 6th floor building, that's also gonna have people that are living there, we hope, okay, so they're also gonna need parking, so we're saying there's 90-something people, 90-something apartments, right? Parking is a big thing for us, that's why we keep talking about it, because it's massive, and I'll tell you why, I know you're so confused, why are we harping on the parking, but I need to explain to you why we are, because everyone in this room, literally everyone, knows we have an issue with parking. We have an issue with parking, and there's 95 more people moving into that building. So let's say only half of them have cars, okay? So that means we need, let's say 30% have cars, okay? We're saying 30 more parking places we have to find for those people, okay? Now, how many apartments do you have that are for handicapped?
It would be 5% for mobility impaired folks,
Okay,
households, and then 3% for hearing impaired.
Okay, so those people are definitely not are not coming by public transportation, not definitely, but most probably not. They're for sure gonna need the parking. And you're thinking so openly and advanced that you have this handicap accessibility for them, which we really applaud. But how are they getting there? Are they flying? Are they, I mean, how are they getting there? I mean, what's the practicality in this? We love that you have the fitness center and everything, but what are we doing with these people? Where are they going? So they're parking 3 blocks away, 4 blocks away, even 5 blocks away, they can't, because you know why? In that 5 block area, do you know how many buildings just went up? So, and each person is, oh, well, we didn't think of parking. We understand you didn't think of parking, because that's really pulling out of your pocket, and I'm really sorry if I'm sounding a little rude, but I have to be a little bit blunt here. So, the bottom line is that if you're coming in to think about the community, this is huge for our community to have parking.
We appreciate your Listen, I understand, I also have a car, I know what it's like to search for parking for over an hour, it's really difficult. I just also wanna preface that, we hear that there's a lot of housing being built in this neighborhood, that you have other, developers coming to you, and, I think also just to note, this project is 100% affordable housing, it is not including market rate. There's, it's,
Well, you're gonna explain what that means
we're
to
gonna,
us, right?
we're gonna explain what that means, but our projects, which Sophia can go into more, are, under regulatory agreements that maintain the affordability. So it's very different than market rate, and it requires different subsidy, and the underwriting is very different, and the pros and cons of adding in parking as something that is also costly also directly affects the affordability of those units, and that is different than market rate housing, just fundamentally. Even mixed income, where there's, MIH, affordable housing within other buildings that have market rate, it is different. And the balancing there, it does affect everything, so I'll pass this to you.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the unit mix and affordability of the project. So as we mentioned earlier, the project will be developed under HPD's new construction finance program. 100% of the units will be affordable. And so the proposal includes a mix of studios, 1-beds, and 2-bedroom units. 15% of the units will be set aside for formerly homeless households, and then there will be a 5% set aside for folks who are mobility impaired, and then 2% of the units will be set aside for folks who are hearing and visually impaired. And then once the units are built up, the units will be available through HPD's Housing Connect 2.0 platform. And then the units for the formerly homeless households will be referred by the Department of Homeless Services. And then we have this chart here that highlights the affordability levels. And so we have about 14 units that will be made available to formerly homeless households. About 40 units will be available at 50% of AMI. 16 units will be available at 60% AMI, and then about 23% of the units will be available at 80% of AMI for a total of 93 units.
Can I ask a question about the homeless that are going to the house here? What is the ratio? Is that homeless females, males, families?
It's just 50% set aside for formerly homeless households. There's no
Household means families.
The households are one.
That's one.
It's both.
And if that's male or female?
Yep, so it includes families and includes individuals.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of talk about parking, and I think you said 100% of the room demands parking. I
I
just
didn't
want
say demands. Oh, I would never say the word demands.
or the 100% of the room believes parking is an issue. I just want to say, as a community member, I don't agree with that. But for the record, I also urge HPD to consider, if the trade-off is add 5 parking spots and take away 5 units, like as a community member, I would 100% choose to have housing for people over storage for
But that's
private vehicles.
not likely, we're talking about the seller versus, right?
But if the subsidy is taken, if the parking requires more subsidy, that subsidy is not able to be given to more units, like that to me is a very clear trade-off that I.
Yeah, but what you're not seeing is what you're not seeing.
Guys,
this is wrong. People can voice their view.
Yeah, we're not gonna run
Yeah,
this
no,
discussion.
Wait.
Let him talk.
Guys, let's let them finish the presentation and then we'll have more discussion.
I have a question, actually.
Wait, they're gonna take the information back and
I've got a
look
question.
at it. They're not saying that we're taking away,
Right.
we're
Right.
recommending.
Guys, you don't have to address
Guys.
everyone directly
It's
that
fine,
you
you can
disagree
tell
with.
it, but I don't think I said 100%, I don't think I said that words, I just wanted to say if you can check on the.
Guys,
So
this
my
recording,
question
you can check on the
is
recording, I never
about
said the word
the
100%.
AMI levels that you have,
Joshua has the floor.
the AMI levels that you've listed.
Yes.
Could you just tell us what incomes those correspond to in like dollar amounts?
Yes.
About 500.
So.
And by the way, I think 40 out of 93 units at 50% AMI is significant. We've passed I forget what we call it, zoning principles, where that's around the income that we talk about, matching levels in this community.
And even better.
And even better.
Right.
So I think that's important to think about in a project like this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so just to also give a little bit of context, so for the new construction finance program, so what HUD considers extremely low income would be an AMI of 30% or less. Very low income would be 50% or less, and then low income is 80% AMI or less. Just so you understand a little bit of the verbiage, but so the 2026 AMI that we currently have, so for a family of 3, so for example, 50% AMI would be around $76,000, and then 60% AMI would be about $91,000, and then 80% of AMI for a family of 3 would be up to about $120,000.
Oh, that's pretty high.
Yeah, try how many of one.
Just
Yes.
because there's a lot of one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a family of 1, for 50% AMI, it would be about $59,000. For 60% AMI for a family of 1, that would be up to $71,000. And then for 80% AMI for a family of 1, that would be about $95,000.
And just for reference, our district's median income is right around the 76,000 mark.
I beg you differ.
On the other side of Empire, I don't think so. No.
Should make the difference.
Well, district-wide, that's according to the census.
This is data, guys.
It's not really far.
The data on our side of Empire and Crown Heights is different.
I understand.
That's where the.
Doesn't mean that there can't be a lot of people who are way below that.
Right.
I want to say one thing. I do want to commend you guys for the AMI levels y'all have chosen, because a lot of people who live around here have done what they've been told. They've gone to school, got their degrees, got their jobs, and they cannot handle market rate. They're not being paid at that level. And this is all they have available. And in this district, for example, there's been almost no 80% AMI preference over the past couple of years, at least when it comes to availability and housing connect. It's essentially almost dried up and gone. So seeing some of this come here is great. I appreciate that. And there are people who are working hard and are finally going to be able to find a place to live. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. We're excited to just be here and kind of talking you through this project. This site presents a really good opportunity for us to turn a vacant site into a 100% affordable housing building that can house folks from different levels of affordability. And so with that, I'll just wrap up and then we can get into more Q&A. So this is just kind of an overview of the project summary and our timeline ahead. So just to reiterate, we're proposing a 17-story new construction building using HPD's new construction finance program. The project would include about 93 affordable rental units, affordable to households earning up to 80% of AMI, as well as community space. And we're targeting starting ULURP or an E-start around Q4 of 2026. And so in terms of our upcoming milestones, so last week we were able to meet with the land use and ULURP chairs to introduce the project, just kind of how we're discussing tonight. And this is our first touch point with the ULURP and Land Use Committee. So this summer, AFI plans to connect with the community by conducting some community outreach. And then that brings us to our pre-ULURP outreach, which we're targeting for September 2026, so later this fall. And that will be us coming back here to talk to you all, the borough president, as well as the council member. And then we'll be targeting an E-start around Q4 of 2026, and then that'll bring us to the ULURP process, which will be 60 days of review time for the community board and borough president, and then a 30-day review time for the city council. And then if all goes according to plan, we're anticipating an ULURP approval around Q2 of 2027. So this concludes the formal presentation. Happy to click back through any slides that folks want to see again and answer any other questions.
Okay, so I'll take questions first from the committee and then from the general public. And if I could just start off with two clarifying questions. The affordable units, are those all permanently affordable?
Yes.
In perpetuity?
Yes.
And the second question is, can you give us a little bit more background on the new construction finance program? What are the terms? Will you be accessing any other tax credit or subsidy programs? Just because I think that would be helpful for us in thinking about the affordability and what's possible and
Yeah, so I can give a little bit of context on the new construction finance program. So the funds are to construct 100% affordable multifamily rental projects, in which 60 to 100% of the units are affordable to households earning up to 80% of AMI. So up to 40% of the units may have rents affordable to households up to 120% AMI, and then 15% of the units must be set aside to formerly homeless households. And then generally the projects must achieve an average affordability between 50 to 60% AMI. And each project generally must include a minimum of 50% extremely low income, which is 30% AMI or lower units, and then very low income, which is 31 to 50%
there are
AMI
loans,
units.
there are sub-grants, what is it?
I am not too sure about the funding.
So there's subsidy from the city, so it comes in the form of a soft debt on the property.
Okay.
And then typically there's, the interest is rolled at the end into the principal at the end, and then it's like renewed after 30 years when we
So
afford
you
the,
have to pay it off after 30 years.
if you want to leave the regulatory period, you have to pay it off.
Okay, but it's do you have projects where it gets renewed?
Absolutely.
And not into, so
Because
then that,
that whole thing is like to keep it affordable forever.
okay.
So some developers will come access this program knowing that it's only for 30 years, and then they see that as like their way to get out at the end.
So that your way of doing it is to keep it affordable forever.
Correct.
But another developer could use access this funding and discontinue it after 30.
Correct.
And it still depends on the availability of funding after 30 years. That's part of it.
Maybe, but I think it's kind of already out, like they already issued it, it was part of the fiscal year budget in 2027, whatever,
Okay.
so it's out the door.
No, what I mean is like in 2057, when it's time to renew.
Yeah.
It would depend both on your willingness and the city's availability of funds.
I think yes, in previous projects, we've had it written in to be like longer than 40 year or 30 year, because some of them have inclusionary, and those have.
Well, we have the MIH on the site.
There's
There's
a
MIH.
Those units are in the documents to be forever.
Okay.
And I remember the last IH project that we did, our executive director was like, throw down all of it. Because that's how we are. We're not, like, we will include it if we can to be forever.
And are you accessing any other tax credits or financing?
So this would get, we're gonna apply, our intention is to apply for 9% low-income housing tax credits. That is application that is around March, April of next year. So this project is like modeling for us doing that financing.
And that program, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, targets the 50% of AMI level. Is that correct?
No, so it was 60, and recently they changed it so that it can be upsized to 80 as long as it averages to 60.
I see.
So this would be 100%. We would be 100% eligible for every unit tax credit.
All right, thank you, that's helpful.
So, one question, so the 15% unit set aside for the homeless people. So out of the 93, that's about 13 units, what is the AMI for that group of people?
For the homeless set aside?
Yeah.
So those are through DHS, they get, I believe, project-based vouchers, which would just be 30% of their income. They would
30% of their income?
Yeah, that would be the expectation.
Which
Yeah, if there's no minimum, like income, so it's just 30% of whatever.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming in. I want to echo Ethan and commend you on the depth of affordable units, and I want to echo earlier comments to it's I think imperative to preserve the depth of affordability, number of affordable units, and their size over other factors. My question is on ULURP. This is a really exciting new program. I'm curious if you could talk about how the ULURP process has allowed you to build this faster, or more cheaply, or the other benefits to Virginia.
Yeah, so in terms of the kind of changes in ULURP, as you can probably see, so there's usually a longer review period once we start the ULURP clock. So for ULURP, the whole process takes about 7 months, and so with ULURP, we're able to get through the public review process in 90 days. So with ULURP, we don't need to go to Planning Commission instead, because these projects are they have like an HDFC element. It requires us to go to council instead. So that's the quicker. That's basically where the like why it's quicker for us to go through the process is mainly through that.
And just to add on,
Yeah, we wanted to just kind of introduce the project and just kind of understand what the priorities of the community are to see if we're able to incorporate that into the project at all. But yeah, we'll still be back for pre-ULURP outreach, and I know that Last week, when we met, it sounds like there is an interest in HPD coming back for an Affordable Housing 101 presentation, where we just kind of go through the whole process and just kind of explain everything to do with affordable housing through an HPD lens, because it is quite confusing. So we're hoping to be back in the fall to give that presentation. Not sure if it'll be with you folks or with the general board, or but okay, yeah.
I'm just wondering about the ground floor spaces, the commercial usage, if there's the type of designation that you have for how you're going to use that. Will there be any kind of community benefits for those? It's 2 floors, right, that are commercial, or one?
No, it's not rendering this. Cool, it looks like it.
It's just the one.
It's just
Oh, yeah.
one, it's just the ground floor.
And it's about only about 1,000 square feet. It's not very.
So you have any idea what the
So our initial conversations with the council member's office was about the community preferring that to be more of a community facility. So as of now, we have that zone, we have it kind of drawn and zoned as community facility. And as of now, we're like softly planning on taking the space as AFI. We don't have an office in this neighborhood. We provide community services. We also want to have an on-site presence for the homeless referrals in the building. That's something that the city is.
Would other people, would other areas, people in the area be able to access?
Absolutely, it's open to public. It's for community services, for the whole community, senior services.
Yeah, we really need that. We're desperate for senior services in this neighborhood. We don't really have a senior center in our area at all.
Well, I don't know if we have a big senior center.
Well, I'm just saying, we need senior services.
Yes, so it's like, yes, so we offer those services, and as of now, the intention is that we're planning to rent that space as a community facility.
Okay.
Janice, I think you were next.
Hi, Janice Granum. I have a question about the ownership was transferred in 2014 to the Asian Americans for Equality. That's a private organization.
That's it's a nonprofit.
Nonprofit organization. So, what kind of, 2 questions. How will the community outreach look other than covering the CB9 as you have today? Because this is a minuscule, this is not a really adequate representation of the community. So are you putting out flyers? Are you making robocalls? What exactly is the plan for outreach? That's one. And the second one is, I didn't see anything about any kind of CB9 resident preference. Maybe I missed that, and I don't see it in the documents.
Yeah, I can speak to the community preference. So essentially there's a 20% community preference for folks who live in CB9, as long as the development is marketed before 2029. If the units are marketed after 2029, that community preference drops down to 15%. We wish it was higher. There was a lawsuit that dropped it down from, it was previously 50% down to 20. So I wish that community preference number was higher, but due to fair housing regulations and the lawsuit that ensued, it's now dropped a bit. But yeah, so there will be a 20% set aside for CB9 residents.
And for the community outreach, we have started to compile a list of people that we, council member has said that we have to talk to. And so we'll be back here to reach out to those organizations to meet one-on-one, but also to be able to, this age of Zoom, to be able to get on calls and to be able to, talk to people, and also to establish how do we communicate regularly. There's when I talked earlier about here are the potential lists, we were given some other resources as well and some references, so we would welcome that, and I think that's my part here, is to ask who should we be talking to, how should this outreach get done, if there are there going to be community festivals,
I can tell you postcards, I could tell you robocalls, I could tell you if you're calling the politicians, they know. They have all the numbers of the people in the community. They will be calling you in about a few more weeks for the voting. So please don't let anyone tell you to just have them all come here. There's not enough room here. So, I mean, let's really think outside of the box, okay? Because the community outreach, depending on CB9 for everything, is not sufficient. It's not sustainable and it's unfair. I don't know how much money is in your budget for community outreach, but I can tell you a lot of times community outreach is about as much of a buzzword as affordability. So let's be real. Community outreach has got to really go deep. It's got to go far, and y'all gonna have to spend money. Community Board 9 doesn't have it.
Nicola, and Betty have
I'm sorry.
questions.
Hi, my name, I'm sorry. Let me take the committee members first.
Just piggybacking to give you insight into this community. A lot of the people they have an email, they don't use it.
Correct.
So you cannot rely on electronic communications to think that that's going to reach out to people. And as people have mentioned, this community is desperate for true affordability. We have so many people that are getting pushed out of this neighborhood because of the increases in pricing. So I know that we only have a certain percentage set aside. That's why it's more important than ever that we get the word out because we know that there are going to be populations in the city that are going to have an insight. They're going to know just when you open up, and they're going to flood the application.
So much for the residents.
So I'm not sure, how does the application process work?
Yeah, so it would just be through Housing Connect, which I'm sure you're all familiar with.
Not sufficient, not sustainable.
It's a tough website. I completely understand. But yeah, because these units will be marketed through there, that is how folks will be able to apply for them. But it could be an idea to, do some outreach and just to let folks know,
And have workshops because I know a city council person, not Crystal, but another one had, but they have had meetings where they have people come and help them with filling out the form. That's really helpful.
Yeah, so HPD has some free assistance programs that help you to get your application together. Full transparency, I'm even trying to use it for myself and my wife. So there are resources out there, and I actually did bring some.
We need it in this neighborhood though.
Yeah, I have some handouts that I brought that give you the information to folks to reach out to get that help. It's one-on-one help to get applications ready for Housing Connect. So I'm happy to pass those out.
Also, when the lottery launches, we'll have to publish it in the newspapers, and picking which ones are going to reach your community is something that we will like to coordinate with your office and these other communities.
Yeah, there are tricks to filling out that form.
Yes.
There's some tricks. And I don't know them, but I know that there are.
But you know that
I know that some people have worked with them, directors, projects have opened, and it's helped people because they weren't able to do it properly on their own.
And they give up.
And they give up, or they don't do it
They get
right.
disqualified.
Yeah, they get disqualified, so.
It's worth mentioning the city is revamping Housing Connect.
Again?
On their website, they say we're launching a new.
Oh, no.
Vinny, you have a question?
I actually had a question.
Wait,
Could
I'm sorry.
you repeat
Could
over?
you let the?
This
is the last one.
Okay.
No, after Benny, they come.
Just think about joining.
So I didn't hear you, Benny?
For the 3 different types of units.
Yeah, so we can definitely talk to our finance team to bring in some more accurate representations of what the rents will actually look like on the sites. We don't have those right now, but we can definitely get those.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. What did you say?
What would the rents look like for the 3 different types of apartments?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's still pretty preliminary.
Very
We typically have a more detailed affordability mix when we come. for ULURP. So that pre-ULURP outreach, we will be sharing a more close to finalized proposal. Right now, it's a little bit high level, which is why that chart is only 2 columns. Usually, it's far more, and we'll be able to provide some more accurate depictions of the rest of the team.
Hector, can I let the young lady go? She's been.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. No, it's fine.
Now, my question is really quick. So, getting back to the Housing Connect issue, is there anything that you guys can do to have HPD sort of like pay a close attention to the community preference on those applications?
The community preference is set at 20% as long as the units are, put up on Housing Connect before 2029, and that goes across the city.
But we want them to focus.
How so?
We would like them to focus.
So I will tell you that the way the marketing agents work is they have to fill the set asides first. So
Okay.
first they're gonna do the mobility, then they're gonna do the community, then they're gonna do everybody else. Just because that's how the system works and it makes it longer, but that's the reality. So you are preferred here. You are getting preferred.
When we get to everybody else, how does that work? Is it first come, first served?
So it's like they have a very fair system that they've deciphered where everybody applies and at the very end of the lottery ends and then they start running batches and the system generates them randomly and a batch of 100 names comes out and then the marketing agent works through those 100 and they're numbered 1 through 100. And so you're number one, and you have to decline it before number 2 even has a shot. And if you don't fill in with that 100, you gotta get another 100 and another 100, and it's a piecemeal thing. And usually they do like a few hundred at once, and they start going through those and get their documents. But everybody has a number, so you're still in order by that 1 to 500, and they just keep running them if they haven't filled all the units yet.
But they're changing it, so.
All right, thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Autumn. My first question is, I have 2. The first one is about the rent and eligibility. So when someone is chosen, say from the lottery, they get the apartment, all of the analysis is done regarding how much they make and all of that. Once that is completed, once they live in the apartment, if that person gets a promotion or loses a job, who knows what happens, is there a reanalysis of what they're paying for rent?
Never.
Afterwards.
Nope. You can win the lottery and live in this building.
Or you could lose a job.
Right.
Or you could lose your job,
on the
but then
other
you can't
side.
pay your rent, and then you run into issues of not paying your rent. I took a tax credit certification class, and the guy was like, "We want you to win the lottery in these apartments." It's designed to create affordable housing for everybody, and then you make money. And that's why I was like, this Donnie criticism was kind of frustrating me. Like, yeah, he has an affordable apartment, and then he got a better job. Can't we all do that? We all have to get more expensive apartments when we get better jobs.
Right.
And the second question I had
That's
is
true.
whether or not,
But you're not gonna get kicked out, that's the point.
the second question I had is whether or not the amount set by the AMI considers people's student loan debt or anything else like that. Because for a lot of people that I know personally, this has been a big barrier for them to be able to afford these apartments. Because even though they make X amount, they don't consider I have student loan debt or I have this one car. They don't consider those things. So is that a consideration when it comes to this?
Unfortunately, it's not a consideration, but that is feedback that I have received across multiple boards in Brooklyn that I've, spoken to, that they would really prefer if things like student loans and other things were factored into, AMI levels, and then in turn affordability. It is the AMI breakdown and how it's calculated is very faulty, and I completely understand that. It's very frustrating to have one figure represent an entire city across 5 boroughs. It just doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, that is kind of the broken system that we're working in, to try and bring, as deeply affordable housing as we can to your neighborhoods. So I just wanted to, full transparency, I understand the frustrations with how AMIs are set up, but unfortunately they are set federally, and we have to try and figure out, you know, a best way to make it work across the city. So yeah, but thank you for bringing that up.
You won't have a problem with having a military person moving in, would you? Because you have people that work for the city and they're in reserves, so they may be in active duty for like 3 months and then they come back to work. Do you have a problem with military people?
No, usually students are the only thing that has a lot of trouble with tax credit. It's like as soon as you see a student, they're like denied immediately. But military has never been an issue in my experience.
Also, just in terms of, let me just get the figure correct.
Does anybody get like teachers or anything? Teachers, veterans get a higher?
Yeah, so I was,
They do, right?
yeah, I was just gonna touch on that. So as of late November in 2025, the new published lotteries include, there's a 10% set aside for, or a 10% preference for military veterans as well. Yeah. So that's.
Yes, we kind of went over this, it was breezed through very quickly, the District 35 land use framework.
Sure, yeah.
Can we just go back to that slide very quickly?
Yes.
So, just so I understand what was said, this is what the council member uses to determine whether or not she's gonna support a project, and you guys are going on track 1. Which is option A or B, all 4 of the baseline criteria and at least 1 of the additional criteria in each category.
Yes.
So can you just go through again very quickly how this project is addressing, is meeting each one of the criteria?
Yeah.
I don't really understand what it is.
The one that says like open space amenities and housing upgrades, that one, I said?
Well, there are 7 criteria addressed here, and you know, it's been talked about in bits and pieces, but I'm just trying to get the whole picture of how it meets all of these. Like workforce, that's pretty vague. I don't really know how this is gonna address that. Is it hiring local? Is it like, what do these mean practically, is what I'm trying to understand?
Yeah, sure. Do you have any?
So honestly, this is not organized the way that it was on the, I think we got a little summarizing, moving it over. But there were each of the criteria sections that were part of the survey results. And each section, we were like one item, one of the couple of sections, we had 2 items. We don't have workforce housing, that was not one of them, but there was a different one in this section.
So that's wrong, like workforce development,
Yeah.
like how the
Oh,
project,
it's local
which
hiring.
there's HP requirements for
Well,
that.
well, so we also, I think I flagged this because there was something in the community needs survey about, local businesses, and because our organization has a small business lending CDFI that's gonna be like, have a presence on site, there was like relevance to that.
Yeah, we can
To satisfy
definitely follow up with the committee on just going through line by line and explaining, you know, how the project complies with the criteria. Yeah.
It would be really interesting.
Yeah.
I had a separate note all about that, we just tried to summarize.
Basic rules of the city is what it's saying.
Great question, Isaiah, thank you.
I found the answer for him. It's on the council website.
Can you send it to me?
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
doesn't say
It-
there.
Well,
Now,
I mean,
that's what
no, but they have to, it's very clear, they have to be.
Yeah, well, we have to know what they're gonna do.
I can send you
It's
guys
on
the
the
framework.
section.
Could you
But they'll also follow up with
maybe the portion that are designed?
Yeah.
Sure. So for sure, in terms of the sustainability aspect, like I said, we're designing a all electric passive house building that's going to be pursued for certification, which means that it'll be highly energy efficient building, not using fossil fuels. And then on the additional criteria that we're proposing is that ADA accessibility, which is there is a base minimum criteria required by the city. I think what we're proposing is to actually double the numbers in terms of the baseline requirements. So provide 10% accessible units as well as, so that's for mobility impaired, and then the requirement is 2% for mobility, for sensory impaired, we'll provide for 5% sensory impaired.
And what are universal design principles?
So universal design principles are essentially to make sure that that person if it's mobility impaired has the ability to navigate through that space without without kind of running into obstructions. So it's really just more or less like fully accessible spaces. So generally speaking, like all the community spaces, all the amenity spaces are going to be 100% accessible.
I also want to mention that we use a feng shui consultant in our project. And it sounds a little weird, but it's actually really neat because the developer is concerned about cost and feasibility, and then the architect cares about, aesthetic and, different perspectives, and then, the feng shui consultant is thinking about the end user. So different things, just little things like maybe we could orient the door on the side and have the bathroom on this, and it's like little things that we can fix in the building that might create like a better flow and a better user experience. So that's something that we have had on all of our buildings so far, and it's been really effective. So that's something that we are going to be utilizing here.
I think Suki was going to ask a question. I wanted to know, the project will have union labor?
So this is not required to have union labor.
This one, new city official one?
I think it doesn't trigger the number of units.
Yeah.
But you are planning some type of outreach or local hiring?
Yes, absolutely.
So one more question, just on the all-electric building, I think that the cost of electricity is a hot topic, and a lot of people in new buildings have been taken aback by their heating and cooling bills. Is this gonna be low energy costs for the renters? If it's,
So I would say that HPD has factored that into their utility allowance in recent years.
okay.
So it has helped get that less burden on the tenants. So when you do electric heating and cooling, it has the tenant pay commensurately so that the building is not, you're not passing those funds on to the tenant.
Well, let me just jump in on that real quick. So in terms of passive house design, the whole idea is that you have a very well insulated building, but also an airtight. So like oftentimes many older buildings, they're just very leaky, right? Like the windows, double hung windows are very leaky, and then how it's sealed around, how they meet the building opening, right? The masonry opening, very, very leaky, right? And so whatever heat you're generating, right, it leaks through all those openings, and you're just wasting energy, right? With an airtight building, whatever energy you're generating to heat or cool the space, it stays within the building. And then there's also a ERV, which is an energy recovery ventilator, which basically says what you're required to like exhaust from your kitchens and bathrooms. There's heat and cooling in those kitchen and bathroom exhaust, so that ERV is actually recapturing the heat and the moisture and transferring that heat and moisture to the incoming air. So instead of like 30 degree air coming in that you're bringing in, that heat and the 70 degree air that you're ordinarily exhausting, it gets transferred back to that 30 degree incoming air, and you're feeding, let's say 65 degree air into the building now. And so you're not, because you're feeding 65 degree air into the building, you don't need to heat or cool that air as much, right? So that's the whole idea of passive house. So what you're doing is you're actually spending less energy because you have a very airtight and insulated building. You're actually spending less energy, so less money on heating and cooling costs.
Does that mean solar?
There is going to be solar, 100%.
What about like
kinds of things, like will ownership pay a portion of the utilities for the tenants, or are tenants responsible for all of their utilities?
So in most of these rental buildings that we own and manage, tenants are responsible for their electrical meter, so they're responsible for any usage of their electricity, they wanna turn the lights on, they wanna turn TV on, they pay for that. The city requires that heating be provided for tenants in cold months. However, cooling is still not required. Although it's required. It's required in 19 now. I think that's the direction we're going. So these systems are now, they're like combined. The heating and cooling is combined. So for an owner, it's easier to just put it all in the building account and put all the heating and all the cooling in the building account and pay the building all the heating and cooling. So that's how we've set up our last few buildings with these newer HVAC systems that have heating and cooling combined. It's more comfortable for the tenants. They're not dealing with window AC units, and they just pay one bill. And the way we can do this is the building, we can use like a digital system to kind of monitor usage. So if you see someone is like keeping their apartment at 60 degrees, or you can also have like a master thermostat and say you can't put it at below 70, so nobody is like abusing it. So there's ways that building management can kind of like put in some controls, but also providing the tenants their AC. So the tenants will be paying electric, and there's no gas in the building, so it's going to be electric range. Maybe we'll see about convection. Induction. Sorry. That's the wrong word.
And the beautiful thing about like electric ranges is that because you don't have a gas meter, right? Even if you don't do a lot of cooking, you still have to pay the basic delivery fee. And so with just if you're just doing electric, there's only one bill you have to pay for your outlets and for your cooking. So there is actually a savings.
Consider since they all electric, consider the load on the grid that this building's going to.
For sure. And so
What happens if there's a brownout and there's a heat wave?
So
is the building shut down?
No. Great question. Yeah, basically, all new construction is more or less, going in the direction of all electric, or the majority of them at least. And so what we're finding is that Con Ed is now having to introduce electrical vaults outside the building to bring in more power, to be able to deliver more power into the building. So that there's that aspect of it. But in terms of there is going to be a backup generator. So there is the only gas that's going into the building is just to provide backup generator that provides power for the elevator as well. So there's going to be a community room that it will also act as an area of refuge during emergencies. And so all the outlets in that community room will be on the backup generator, the lighting, the heating and cooling for that community room will be on the backup generator so that during an emergency people can go to a space, they can make sure that they're in a conditioned space, they can also charge their phones, they'll make sure there will be a refrigerator that will be operational so that if there's if there's medication, whatever needs to be in a refrigerator.
Can I ask what the square footage is of that community room?
Maybe like 600, 700 square feet.
How many people would you be able to get in there, you think?
The office is about a house. The whole office is about a house.
It's
Okay, so the whole office, this whole office is that? Oh, the whole office.
Yeah.
This room is what was it say?
I mean, I think
You're an
that
architect, you probably can tell me how many could get into that, in that space.
comfortably, you could probably get to like 75-ish.
75 comfortably.
Like with chairs and rows like that?
What about uncomfortably?
Cram all in, for sure.
In case of emergency, you'll be uncomfortably, that's all.
But the thing is, it's like, the idea is that it's a temporary.
Maybe if there's a tornado or something.
Go.
Any more questions from the public? This is your chance. Anybody?
I just have one more question.
Janice, yes.
So AAFE, the land was transferred in 2014, right? So I just want to know, maybe I missed it, a little history from 2014 to 2026. Was the land just sitting there? Were there studies done on the environmental impact of the soil? What's been done from 2014 to today?
Yeah, so I can run you through a little timeline.
I'll tell you why she said that. Go ahead.
So yeah, as you mentioned, in 2014, the sites were transferred to AFI, and then in 2015, AFI acquired Lot 50 as well, which just made for a more feasible development site. And then essentially, I think from there, I think there started conversations with HPD around, let's see, I think.
That's a lot of conversations since 2015, right?
No.
11 years.
Around.
Well, to some degree, right? Because the project was originally conceptualized as a rehab project. That you can't rehab.
But that was
something that's
prior
not
to 97, right?
No.
And it was.
So 1997, it
was
was
disposed,
right?
right.
And then it was the building was then demolished after.
Right, but
Right, and then when they came back to us with the proposal, it was thinking of the site for a use that wasn't allowed per the deed. Right, so it was then figuring out like what we were okay with the proposal being, right? Because it's not our land right now. Right now it's already been disposed of.
Right,
So
right.
our inclusion, there was a lot of discussion. There was also COVID, and then there was also it sometimes pre-development can take a really long time.
I understand. So have there been any environmental studies done? Or did the owners just kind of sit on the property and wait for the ULURP to happen? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so as part of this project, this project qualifies for Green Fast Track, which is environmental review under seeker, and then there was recently, like last week, there was another reform to environmental review through the state. It was a SECRO reform. So that basically allows any projects. So for this site, it's zoned R8X. So any projects in this zone up to 500 units would be exempt through this new reform that was passed literally last week. So HPD environmental is still trying to figure out what guidance to kind of offer development teams, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of environmental review that's in the middle of review, and now we have this new reform. So HPD environmental is still figuring out what that will look like, but there's still testing being done to noise and hazmat as well on the site. So yeah, it's going through its required environmental review.
But you were saying when the conversation.
In regards to
For this project.
For this project, from what I understand in 2014, that was like the beginning of the discussions.
Do you know what this lot used to be?
Well, I could tell not the laundry.
It used to be, it's pretty interesting. It used to be for pan bands. Pan bands would be there all summer long, having parties and preparing for the
Not quite, that's not what it was now.
Yeah, it
Before
was.
that.
I lived there.
It was for a while.
Yeah, because they tore down sites.
Okay.
Before that.
What was there
Well,
was
since
a
I lived
cleaning
there
site. They
in
had
2005.
they washed white sheets
No, in
Oh,
front of
okay.
that.
Arrow
No, that, no,
Yes.
that house was in front of
It's
that.
all chemical.
It's chemical, thank you, I'm telling you, I live right
And that's the
there.
point I was trying to drive at, but she blew my mind.
Hey, she knows you, because you guys have been here for a long time.
Okay, now
It
I'm not negating
was.
that, but I'm telling you the fact of the matter, it was a chemical site.
To this
The linen factory.
Yeah, it was.
But this wasn't the linen factory lot.
It was.
It was another lot.
No, not from my
It was.
understanding.
No.
So
I
Janice,
wanna-
I'm really glad you asked your question because you
Yes.
read my mind.
Yes.
My question to all of you, because we've been going back and forth as a committee, we've been going back and forth with the city over the last couple of years about what kinds of zoning regulations they wanted and environmental regulations they want to eliminate to make affordable housing development faster. And, you know, we all really appreciate the opportunity to speak with a 100% affordable developer. So, you know, given that this project has taken, ever since you got it in 2014, 12 years to come to this stage where we're discussing it. And prior to that, you know, whoever it was before you, it was, I guess, 17 years since 1997 when the city first disposed of it. We would love to get your thoughts on what you think could be done or changed to make this process of even beginning the ULURP process faster. Like what would have helped you get to this point faster? Because with ULURP versus ELURP, we're talking about a few months. But, you know, from our community's point of view, we're wondering what happened to 30 years. So what in your opinion could shorten that time frame?
We can discuss and provide you with an answer. It's a lot of factors, right? I think there's the transfer of like land that takes its own amount of time, then there's complications that come up, and then there's also like we weren't there in 1997. So it's also like,
None of us were.
you know, sometimes projects are kind of stalled and then they're picked up at different points in time.
Yes, and I can say none of us.
That's right, I would.
Well, I mean, at least working, right? Like we were,
older.
even in 2014, we weren't working age. So I think that it's like projects. It's unfortunate that happens with a lot of projects, and projects that get stalled sometimes are kind of left until enough makes sense for it to really have the momentum to move forward.
What do you think is the reason they get stalled primarily?
We can provide you a response. I think we would have to go back and discuss with people that have a little bit more background than us, that have been right for a little bit longer. Sometimes it's figuring out the right mechanism. Sometimes it's, you know, working with development teams. They're trying to figure out the proposals, but they also have other projects. So I think it's a lot of reasons.
Could it have been financial challenges maybe? Right? I mean,
It's a variety
it
of
seems
reasons
like-
we can't.
yeah, I'm not hearing anyone consider that. Like, was the money not there for that long? Because that's also a possibility.
Well, I think before the rezoning too, the feasibility of the site with
Right.
regard to zoning was like not clear. Was there
That's
a
right.
project there?
Yeah.
So with the city of Yes, it became like
commercial.
it just brought more units, right? We were looking at a couple years ago, it was like 50, 60 apartments. And then you get 90 and it starts to pencil out. And you start to say, okay, this might be something.
So yeah, and that was
So I
kind
think
of
it
the
just took
point.
us that time to think through what did take so
And that
long.
was kind of the
Yeah.
point of ULURP and City of Yes, to make, you know, certain bigger developments make more sense financially or otherwise.
To keep
Yeah,
going
so
higher and higher.
That's actually another question that maybe we'd like to follow up with you guys about at the, you know, when you come to do the affordable housing workshop, is if you can provide us a window into what are the costs of development for you. For example, like looking at that 50 to 60 unit building, because after the Franklin Avenue rezoning took place in 2018, right, you were already up to R8X. So I don't know how much more City of Yes gave you, but like post Franklin Avenue versus today, or, you know, pre Franklin Avenue rezoning when it was a R6A versus post Franklin Avenue rezoning, like what's the difference in the per unit cost? You know, I know obviously a lot of developers complain to us that there's been inflation, you know, it'd be helpful to get some insight into how those factors work, like over time, like, you know, what does it cost, whatever, like 10 years ago versus today?
Yeah.
All of those kinds of things would be really,
We'll do so
really
for the
helpful.
affordable housing 101 HPV, we'll do some, you know, background and trying to answer answer your question to the best of our ability. I think also to see us the goal is also more units, so there is that piece too. It's not just about the affordability, but we can definitely do our best to.
Okay, that would be very helpful.
Is there a shading issue in that area?
Is there a what?
A shading, will it bring shade?
A shading issue for the other.
Shadowing.
Shadow, all that. other-
There's already buildings surrounding it, it's like they're just, like, there's already buildings like this that are there, and then they're just putting it here. So
Well, I
they're like this.
expressed the question because we fought very hard to protect the gardens.
Yeah, I understand
So
that.
that's why,
Very hard.
yes.
And
So
Eastern
that's- I
Parkway,
respect-
all the sun on Eastern Parkway, we fought very hard for that.
Right.
So so we still have the sun coming in over there. Yeah, we have a building here, we have a building here, but we have meanwhile still the sun coming from over here. So when you're putting it in, that's a complete wall, you're telling me. That's what you're telling me basically. Now we're getting a complete wall of high.
It's already there, it's already there.
It's not like anything higher than anything else, it's just
The same,
further next to
high.
it, so it's high.
It's the same.
As the one behind
Yeah.
it.
They're like fitting a block
Yeah,
and
we're further away from the
Like a
garden.
jigsaw puzzle, they're just
Yeah.
sliding.
I'm
But
sliding
even
it
though
in.
you're further away from the garden, you have another garden there, a park right across the street, so with the data, with the shadow study, the sun is like this with the building.
It is
All
10
through
to,
the
it is
year,
10 to 9, so, and we do have a couple more things we wanna discuss. So, we would love to stay in touch with you and hear more about your community outreach as you go through it. If you can, stay in touch with the board office and let us know how that goes, that would be fantastic.
For sure, having you could send us questions. We're gonna work to prepare that affordable housing 101 and go back.
Thank you so much.
I also have some business cards that I'll just leave on the table and email me, call me, we'll talk.
Okay, thank you all so much.
Thank you. I work in our energy regulatory policy.
Suki, who's gonna do the review of the base?
So, okay guys, we had talked a little bit about it on the call, just in case whether you want to go over the rules for basement housing.
Yeah, so I just sent a follow-up a little bit before the end of the day, but let me just pull it up. So with the basement housing, I reached out to one of my colleagues at HPD, and the regulations aren't final yet. They're looking to have more of like a final picture in the next couple months. And then I sent, in the email I sent Dante, there's a link to just like basic information on the local law that passed it. I think it was 126. So that's all the information that we have right now for the basement units. But as I can follow up in a couple of months, like before we come back in the fall to see if there's anything
Well,
new that
hopefully it'll be a real building.
Like, local law mentions covered things like how much above ground the basement has to be.
Great question. Thank you.
Yeah, so.
Here.
Okay.
I have to thank you for coming to this. Thank you for coming to this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's something that people have been interested in here because, we've got places that are clearly people, like, they're poor.
Do you work in energy as well?
Above ground, but we also have
great.
quite a
What
lot
do you
of
do?
things that are like 3 feet above ground, and those people, some of them are probably renting out their
Oh, cool.
places already, and they might wanna know if it's.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. I work in energy regulatory policy. So I saw your the bright color shirt on. Yeah, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the program is like to try
This is the job market. A couple years ago, you interviewed for whatever.
units. I don't have much
Something.
context
Yeah,
on it,
yeah,
because it's not something I've been working on, but
Yeah,
I
that sounds
can
right.
try and do some more digging to see what
But thank you.
information I can find, or maybe just send you some links.
If there are gonna be any opportunities for feedback or town hall,
For the basement. Okay, I'm not sure, but.
So,
Yeah, course. I also sent an email for some information about the fair housing strategy that I covered. That was a commitment for
Everybody, can we keep it down until we're done?
Yeah, essentially in the email, there's a link to like the virtual meeting and virtual office hours, and then an online form that just kind of lets you know about like the production targets. But there's an opportunity for you guys to provide feedback on the methodology and the targets at the community district scale. So there's an email directly for for questions and comments to do with that. It's where we live.
Okay, so did everybody hear that? whereweliveny.com. This is HPD's housing plan. There may be housing production targets coming out for every neighborhood. It's a fair housing plan.
Is it .com? Is it .com?
It's so the email address is whereweliveny@hpd.nyc.gov. Yes.
That's the email address.
Yes, that's the email address. And I sent Dante a few links with a recording and the slide deck of a meeting that was done a few weeks ago, just kind of talking about the fair housing growth strategy. So if there's a better email though, I'm happy to distribute
I'll make
that.
sure he sends it.
Okay, great. And then there's also information in there about the ADU for You program, because I know you also had questions about ADUs. And then I attached the ADU for You guidebook in that email along with another link that is like an interactive guidebook that explains all of the changes.
So that's something else that people have inquired about in our community. There are a lot of homes with big garages. There are apartment buildings that have kind of these accessory garages behind them. Sometimes they get converted to stores. But some people might want to convert them to housing, and so what are the rules around that? How do we make sure they're legal and not shacks?
We recently, Saturday, Afi did a workshop on accessory dwelling units.
Okay.
So I think it was really popular, but we'd love to, I think we're planning to organize more.
Okay.
I think this is a legitimate question, how to convert some of these units into legal housing. And so if, oh my gosh, I didn't even know it. Somebody has like, the lady sitting to email from me, so, we can be in touch.
Okay.
I think HPD has your email, so
Yeah.
when we have information like that, we can send
That
it
would
to
be
you,
great.
and share it with
That would be great.
you.
And
Yeah.
I'll pass it along to the rest of the committee. Right, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Get up safe.
Yes, so today, I just want to basically go over committee updates. Specifically, I think there are some updates on the Ramada Inn shelter. I know that's a big hot topic. Go ahead, Teresa, do you want to give us any updates?
Yeah, the TRO is in effect.
Okay, good, okay.
And we need
Well, tell us about the TRO, tell us what this was, and where the TRO came from. Oh, awesome.
I know.
We filed for a temporary restraining order, again, basically saying that we did not receive enough notification and go through the proper process in terms of identifying the shelter. When they were at the town hall, Department of Homeland Services kept reiterating this site was ready to go. Every time we asked them, what were your criteria, this site was ready to go. What's the site? And so they had not done a fair share analysis before the site was selected. And so that was part of the reason to file the temporary restraining order to say that the proper process was wrong. The lower court, we were there for 2 days. The judge, who was the same judge that we had for the 7399 project, declined our temporary restraining order. Never met with us. Had us wait around all day long, and then at 5:05, handed us a piece of paper for the court. So again, they were not very respectful, did not give us our day in court. So we went to the appellate court the next day, day 3, and pleaded our case with them, and the panel of 3 or 4 judges allowed us to have a temporary restraining order to basically see our case through before they start placing people. As part of that process, we found out, remember they kept saying that they didn't know it'd be sometime this summer, they couldn't give us a date. They have a date, it's June 15th.
June 15th?
And so when Alicia was saying, we need it because they're gonna put people in on the 1st, one of the lawyers was like, well, no, it's actually the 15th. Like, oh, I thought you said you didn't know what we were being called in for. They had no idea what we were being called in for. So that was the 15th. It's 15th for us, 15th for Red Roof Inn. So as of this point, we have a temporary restraining order. We're looking to
How long it's in effect for?
until this case.
Okay.
So it's not 2 weeks. It's whenever we get it.
So you need to, they need to produce the fair share analysis, which they just did, and.
Can we talk about the fair share analysis? Did everybody read it?
Well, let me just finish with this. What else do they need to do? Do they need to hold another public hearing? What?
Well, right now we have to get through the case, and part of our case is saying that we have done our fair share. We're not saying that we're the highest and we have the most.
So your case is a challenge to the fair share analysis.
And the criteria that was used to place us, to place that location here, given the fact that we have a family shelter and we have a domestic violence shelter, we have a senior center, we have a lot happening in that neighborhood, and that location is not appropriate for that.
So let's talk about the fair share analysis now.
Before we do, Sophie, I just want to give the community board an update. I believe they have moved men into the shelters from maybe the Bellevue Center, but we have been seeing a lot more traffic, a lot of different men in the area. So I believe they have moved.
You're talking about Kingsborough.
Right, yes. I believe they have moved some men into there because we have a lot more traffic going through, a lot of new people that we see going through the area.
And that's throughout the community. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that even here. We keep looking to say, have they started putting people into Ramada? Because we're seeing a lot of new faces around. We're seeing more panhandling at Westwood Beach and Jackpot. I've had people approach me and as I'm going to the train and at the Wendy's parking lot, like people we've never seen before. So something's definitely happening in this area. Several people are
There's somebody being trafficked.
So let's talk about, you guys wanna talk about the fair share analysis
Yes.
that was sent out?
Did people read it?
Well, before we get to that, we had our own intern, right, that Dante had brought on and he met with us and he was supposed to be doing.
No, we never got anything on that.
So we never got, because one of the questions was around the shelters and supportive housing, so we never got
anything on that. I mean, he did a lot around like the housing units and population and things like that.
So he did a
Never got to
presentation,
the shelters.
we had that PowerPoint presentation, which I was looking for today, I couldn't find it. And
he never did anything, and I think
but then
this
he
is-
asked for update questions.
He never did anything, and I think this is part of the point, is that this information is not as easy to access as it should be, and what's in that fair share analysis, because they're supposed to tell us.
Well, they're
So
telling
what-
us that we have
2 shelters.
2 adult shelters, one being the Ramada, and a family shelter.
And a safe haven.
And a safe haven.
well, they said 5,
But we don't
right?
know what that safe is.
I think they mentioned 5, so I think it was,
2000, and the data is from 2015.
Well, 2015 is the bed to population ratio.
The most significant thing in that report that I saw was the analysis around where this community ranks across the city, and just as predicted, we're right in the middle.
And we never
And
claimed
on
to
the
be.
lower end, quite frankly.
And it says
So-
Manhattan Community Board District 9. So is it our district or is that?
So there's a lot of community districts that will have a lot more than ours, and a lot that would come out a lot less. And so, you know, if the argument is about oversaturating anything, or if the argument is about placing a disproportionate amount of things in this community of these types of facilities, you know, again, I didn't really see that come through in that fair share analysis as expected. So what now?
Because
We
it's not
have
an
to-
accurate
Yeah,
assessment.
we have
It
to be
doesn't
able to
count Vital
trust the
Brooklyn.
data.
It doesn't count the supportive housing that we have. It's only public housing. We know that there are some private shelters and other supportive housing in this
And a lot of
community that's not
not-for-profit.
reflected.
It's not,
yeah, so I would have liked to see a better
and the
breakdown.
controller report
We have more than
is-
four
This is a
shelters.
general report.
Yeah, it's
not
not, it
on a
doesn't give,
community level,
it's
so.
impossible to find that data, and it
Yeah.
should be. You know, we should be able to look at that and do this type of analysis, and it's an incorrect analysis if the data is not
Yeah.
there.
And I think that's one of the problems is there's a lack of transparency around all this
I have to stop
information.
you. I have to stop you. We asked the cities, like, what is this, DHS, I think that put out, they're doing an analysis of the city shelter, which means the ones that are in their purview. I think it is
Well-
natural and it makes sense that that doesn't include
Okay,
private shelters, shelters
But
funded from state
hang
agencies.
on a
No, but this is
So
the
there's-
environmental impact on our
So we have
community.
to make
Those
sure
are
we're
here.
being mindful of how we're framing things and be accurate
so
here.
hang on a
It's
second,
what
there,
we do.
hang on a second, there is a very, under the fair share law, there is a very specific definition of a city facility. And it is anything that is run by the city directly, but also any shelter that's run by a nonprofit that gets 50% or more of their funding from the city, which the majority of the nonprofit programs will. It's pretty rare to have like a philanthropically supported shelter because it's just so much money. So many of the shelters that are directly like run by the city, where the city's directly leasing land or buildings or, you know, they own it, those have to go through ULURP. The nonprofit run shelters, which are known as Article 9 shelters, they don't have to go through ULURP, but they are subject to the fair share analysis, so those do get included. Okay, the other thing is the fair share analysis doesn't focus only on shelters. It also includes all other types of residential beds, from nursing homes, jails, supportive housing, right? They're in different categories. So the fair share analysis is supposed to be very, very detailed. So it's supposed to say how many of that same type, right, being the shelters, and how many residential beds overall, and they're supposed to break it down by category for each district. So that's what I would have liked
You
to see.
guys allege that this agency was dumping this community with shelters, filling it with homeless people, homeless men that are scary. And that's clearly not borne out in the data. There's more data about different types of facilities that could exist. There's more that would paint a fuller picture. But the core contention is not proven at all. And I think you all have to sit with that.
What, I'm not clear of what you're talking about that we didn't approve. We said that we've done our fair share.
You guys are
We
putting
said
a
that
lot
this
of, you
location
guys are
is
putting
not
a lot of weight on
appropriate
this fair
location.
share analysis that
We're
came
saying
out.
that the
and it doesn't show
location
what you
is
thought
not
it was.
appropriate
One place at a
for
time,
this community. That is what we are saying. You're putting it next, a men's shelter next to a domestic violence shelter. That does not make sense. And with a family shelter a block away.
And you don't think
between
that
several
homeless
schools.
men exist next to other people?
So let's get some other.
I'm saying
that doesn't
don't set
exist.
them up for failure. Why are you going to set them into into an area that doesn't make sense, that's gonna place people in that at risk?
Doesn't make sense to criteria that you set up that you would be comfortable
And your
with.
criteria
so
is that
let's
it's
get some
okay to
other
put a men's shelter
opinions.
next to a
Guys,
protected
My
shelter.
criteria is
That
that
you're
you
paying-
can't, my criteria
Guys.
is that you cannot look at the
Guys,
demographics of
please
something and
raise
just
your hands
prejudge.
if you want to speak. You'll
I'm
all be
saying that
recognized.
It's 59 community boards, there are 5 boroughs. This is not that.
Put
this,
it in
that
somebody else's.
Guys,
I'm saying
guys.
that this block
You
does
can
not
each
make
have your
sense.
say, but one at a time. We don't need to do this back and forth. Who's next? Benny.
About quality of life, so it doesn't matter which
She
organization.
stole my stuff.
Yeah.
You know what else fair share
Okay,
is?
Joshua, please.
They're
Who's
addressing me,
next?
so
Who
I'm gonna
wants to
speak.
rate?
No,
No,
Fair
you'll have
share
your
is
chance.
Fair
Joshua,
share is not some
Joshua,
kind
please,
of
you'll have your
regulation.
chance to respond, but we need to get everybody who wants to
I've got it,
comment
'cause
right
I've
now.
taken
Okay. Who's next?
It's
Raise
just
your
like
hand,
our
please raise your
conversations,
hand.
my main point is that our conversations have to be grounded in reality.
Okay, but we need
That's
to
the
raise,
main point
okay,
we're
we
trying
need
to
to raise our hands if we want to speak.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Bobby has the floor.
We're very clear, Josh, on how you feel about this. We're very clear. But you're also stating that the city only mentions the
And
city
please
shelters.
address yourself to the chair, not to
Oh,
other
I'm
members.
sorry, Suki. I'm sorry, we're very clear where some of the members hold. But also it was stated pretty clearly that the fair share doesn't really indicate all the shelters and not the private shelters and not the shelters where we're not really supposed to know where they are for the security of the people that live there. All that's not in what one of the board members or resident members has stated was part of the fair share. So it was stated that we're in the middle ground kind of. When we don't have the most shelters, we don't have the least shelters. So what are we saying? Should we put it someplace else? Why should we put it someplace else? Because it's right next to. It's dangerous where it's placed according to demographics of the area. That's what we're saying. And why isn't the demographics of the area written? It's not stated as demographics of the area because they're not city shelters. That's our point. That's our point here. No, we don't think that another community deserves it more than us. That's not what we're saying, but we're saying this is not the right place for it, okay? You gave it to us over there. We don't like it, but we don't have an argument. But over here is not the right place for that type of. Now, I have nothing against the shelter for men, okay? I'm not saying that every man that's going to be in that shelter is looking to attack women. We're not saying that.
Maybe the kids in the school next door.
One second.
Joshua, let her talk.
What we're saying is, okay, it's okay, Josh. What we're saying is that we have to. You said let's be realistic, so let's be realistic. Okay, let's be realistic. Some of those people can very realistically be violent.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. It could be.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. We have time for 2 more comments. It's 9:12.
I wanna make a comment.
Teresa and then Matt.
I just wanna make a comment living in the area, being outside every day, several times, that the pressure that I see of the people that are coming into the family and the women's shelter is constant. There's new people circulating through there, women with children that are in precarious situation, right? And they're very vulnerable. And they have pressure currently from the neighborhood because people know. And they are basically stalking that area. That area has this pressure now. It's ongoing. There has been incidents with vans, kids going into vans, people on the street, luring kids from the shelter with their mothers into a van where somebody's living on the street, where somebody's charging rent, and we have involved the surrounding community in this. It's been, a very big issue in that neighborhood. This is up the block from me, right? I feel very moved, and people are, and my whole neighborhood are upset about this. It's ongoing. You know, we have to protect, I feel personally, I need, and my neighbors feel, we need to protect those women because they're not being protected as they should be right now. There's a liquor store right across the street. There's 2 more liquor stores opening up the block. Why is that? Why is that? Why are these liquor stores opening right in that immediate area, a few hundred feet away, right? It's a different. But it's all working together. It's a setup. You know, I want those people to move on with their lives and get better and move into apartments. That's what it's for, right? That's what's happening, but they are vulnerable. And I don't want them to be targeted. I know my neighbors, the same thing. We see this in an ongoing way, and it's new people coming through. And, you know, I'm emotional about it. I'm sorry.
You know, I live next to a shelter, and I'm not sure there's great statistical proof that homeless people commit violent crime
No, it's
at
not.
a higher rate. And I think
I didn't say violent.
Well, I think there have been some comments made.
Press yourself to the chair.
There have been some comments made about homeless people committing violent crime, and I'm not sure that happens at a higher rate. And I think I have colleagues, I have family who have been through New York shelter system. They're not violent criminals. I know single men who've been through the shelter system, and I find the way we talk about homeless people here sometimes be a little disappointing. I'm deeply religious. I know some people here share my faith or are religious themselves, and I'm taught by my faith to look out for those who are worse off than I am. And I believe as part of that, that is welcoming people who have oftentimes been dealt a bad hand in life into our community. And I would just like to say some of the conjecture here around homeless people committing violent crime, I don't think is accurate, and I think we could be a little more sensitive and compassionate to our neighbors.
Okay,
I just gotta throw this out
Joshua,
there because
may I
we're
just-
saying a lot.
Joshua,
Really
please.
quickly, you guys
One
have
minute.
pointed
You
out
can
a
let the chair
school.
call on.
You guys have pointed out that there's a school nearby. You
Out
have
of
to
order.
consider the fact of the homelessness issue in the
Out of
city.
order.
I'm giving you
And
1
the
minute,
fact-
Joshua.
Out of
Thank you, Suki. I got a minute. And the fact is, in that school, probably 10 to 15% of those students are going home to homeless shelters, going home to family shelters. That's the reality of the city that we live in a district of 100,000 people. The reason why I'm being so animated and making this point is that we are overreacting to the scale of what this is going to be and making accusations about this, turning the community in a way where, like, look, I just want us to come to earth. We pushed really hard for them to put out this fair share analysis before they started. They put out the analysis. It's not complete. It's not a full data set of everything, but it does include data, and it does show that this community is not oversaturated more or less than any other community. And I'm just asking people to grapple with all of that in talking about it.
So Joshua, guys, so on that note, thank you for mentioning the fair share analysis. I'd like to take us back to that, because I think that this is our shared language, whatever our religion or our personal feelings. There are a lot of emotions around this. So I just like to just quickly read out, because there are like several elements that they have to meet. And I think it would be helpful to talk about whether we feel they met them and how we think we could get more of this information or talk about what the community needs. So, okay, number 1, there's the compatibility of the facility with existing facilities and programs in the immediate vicinity of the site. So that could include things like the domestic violence shelter, and whatever other programs there are. They use a 400-foot radius for their analysis. I'm not exactly sure where that 400-foot radius comes from. If you guys can look into that, whether that is part of the original fair share or law or not, that might be helpful. I didn't spot it as part of the law, so I'm not sure where it comes from. Okay, then they also look at a half-mile radius. So again, I'm not sure exactly where these things come from. Okay, so to the extent to which neighborhood character would be adversely affected by by a concentration of city and or non-city facilities. So that is going to depend on the size of the facility. As Joshua said, something with 150 units versus 100 versus 500 or 1,000 is going to have a different effect on the community. That's also where the beds to population ratio comes in. Unfortunately for us, the denser your community and the more people that you have living there, the lower your bed to population ratio is, even if you're getting what feels to you like a sizable shelter.
And it is one of the densest areas in Brooklyn.
So that's something
Where
that
we're
we may want to take up with the city, that, you know, the beds to population ratio is one thing, but also, you know, like just the sheer number in a small area can sometimes be an issue. But I will say this to you, when you look at it on a district-wide level, our district is not that big. We have 100,000 residents. There are districts that have 200,000 residents, right? So under the beds to population ratio, their districts could take double the number of shelters and not be above average. Okay, so and you know, neighborhood character is a subjective thing, right? So for you all to think about what is the character of that area that you feel is being violated, is something that
Also
you may want to
considering
or not
this is an
violated,
existing facility that's there. It's
Supposed
just
to be a
the
hotel.
use is being changed, but it's already an existing facility with the transient population already because it's a hotel.
So that is
So
an
you
argument
really
for
do
why. Yes.
grapple with the criteria that you all asked
So
the
that's
city
an
to
argument for why
report
it
on.
doesn't violate the neighborhood character. Maybe there are arguments for why it does. Okay, what else?
But we actually need a hotel.
And no on-site services.
So then they go on to talk
We
about.
need a hotel, we need a hotel there actually.
Right.
We do, with people staying here. When people
Then
stay
they go on
there,
to talk about program staffing, safety and security plan. Okay, suitability of the site to provide efficient and cost-effective delivery of the intended services. So, you know, we asked for the contract because that'll tell us how much they're paying and what the other terms are. I think I'm not sure if Dante asked them or not, but we should be getting a site plan because they're talking about providing on-site services. You know, most of the time they're supposed to provide dining, laundry services. Where is all that going to happen necessarily? Because like most motels that I've been to, they have a very small breakfast area because they count on the fact that no one wants to eat their crappy breakfast. So do they have a dining area? Where is that going to be?
No, we checked.
We should
There's
see
not one.
an on-site plan. Same thing with the services, right? If they're talking about wraparound services for 140 men, where does that happen? Do the social workers like go to each person's room? Are they gonna have offices on site? Is there gonna be like a room for like group discussions or group activities?
There's no
like
room for that.
where
There's no,
if we
that's a
want
tiny
for us to
hotel.
determine the suitability of the site, we need a site plan. So what else? Consistency with criteria in the statement of needs or in a submission to the borough president. So here they say that Community Board 9 does not have a 197A plan. So in terms of consistency with plans adopted by us, we don't have a plan, so they can't say. They do think it's consistent with transit access and with secured and monitored access to facilities. So this goes back to some of the discussions that we've had before about transit-oriented development and how affordable housing has to go in transit-oriented areas. And I know I'm not the only one on this committee who thinks that's kind of unfair because there are communities that don't get anything and our community gets a lot. And one of those reasons is transit. So to be fair, I can understand, you know, why when you have a homeless shelter, they are trying to place them in permanent housing. And for them to get to their appointments, they're not driving, they're gonna need to take transit. So that is understandable that the transient shelters maybe are going to be in areas with transit. But hey, let's not forget that there might be areas that don't have a subway, but they have bus access, or they, right? Rail access might not be so feasible either, because like Long Island Railroad costs $13. I don't think we can expect them to take that. But on the other hand, right, with the supportive housing, if you know, it's admitted that many of them are not going to be working, do they need to have access to transit if they have on-site services, right? So does that need to be concentrated in only the transit-oriented areas? You know, maybe not.
Well, I think the transit helps them get a job because they can access a greater number of
But I
jobs
think the
with
point
transit.
is that we've had many of the providers basically say to us that these clients cannot work, right? Like, we and other community boards have asked in the past,
you can get it for that, you know,
is
let's say
there a
that.
requirement, that
Nobody's
they need?
assuming that everyone is like one certain type. We're
Well,
saying
no,
there's a
but-
mixture of
but
people. We're
Javi-
all a mixture of people
but
here. We're all
Javi-
different types of people.
But Javi, we've asked the question before, is there going to be a requirement that the clients of the supportive housing be employed in order to keep their housing? And we've been told no, that many of them will not be working, right? And then you have populations that, you know, like frail seniors, for example, that it's clear they're not expected to work. I remember we had one over on Winthrop in Albany where they said it was going to be like terminally ill veterans or something like that. And so they were like, oh, they don't need parking because they're not going anywhere. And but for the same reason, you know.
But they need to do something.
Right. So, but if they have on-site services and they have on-site, right, like supermarket and whatever else. But anyway, the point being,
But
you know,
it's a tiny hotel.
It's not fair to it's not appropriate for this kind of a facility. You know, and the cost that we're paying, I feel like it's just like a plan that somebody's profiting from, where it's not gonna facilitate those men's best interest, you know, to getting
okay,
the services they need. Like the other shelters have services within those shelters where they're cared for, and you know, I want that for everybody.
it also talks about how the consideration of the mayor's and borough president's strategic policy statement and community board's statement of district needs. So they do look at our statement of district needs, and they note that we believe we've produced our fair share of housing and shelter. And then they say
What page is that?
That's like page 9, I think, the bottom of page 9. And then they go on
know
to
it by heart?
say that the city continues to prioritize homeless prevention, outreach, and placement of families experiencing homelessness into permanent housing. And we believe that our plan will reduce the number of shelter facilities in the city by replacing 360 shelter facilities with a smaller number of shelters. And I can tell you that years ago, we used to have a lot of cluster site housing for, some of you may remember this, for homeless residents. And so the city decided to end that and place them instead in what they called like higher quality shelters and supportive housing. So, you know, I think a big thing is this in fact going to be higher quality? Is it going to be safer with fewer incidents, with more services? And, you know.
Well, we're not changing the city's mind.
I mean, that, you
I
know.
mean, you could ask him. We're not changing the city's mind. We're not changing the city's mind. The bottom line is that's what they decide for right now. The question is where they're putting it. That's it.
Yeah. So what else? Meetings, consultations, or communications with the community board and borough president. It says the city notified relevant elected officials in the community board of its plan for this facility on April 17th, 2026. Public consultation was held on May 12th, 2026. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I read the fair share criteria, they need to give 60 days from notification before the shelters open. So that may be where the June 15th date comes from.
June 15th is
Okay, Article 6, the need for the facility.
But there's a TRO.
So the city of New York is mandated by law and court order to provide temporary housing to every eligible family the need for additional units in shelter is critical to facility meets that critical need. Distribution of similar facilities throughout the city, this is what we're all concerned about. So one thing I noticed when they talked about all of the shelters that they had, all of the other sites that they had considered and rejected for various reasons, and we were not the only neighborhood to be hit up. There were about 10 others that got the notice, but there were like 50 others that were considered, sites that were considered but rejected. And they gave reasons. They said like proximity or viability, right? Proximity means either it was too close to another to other facilities, or that it was not accessible. So we don't know which one that was, and because they didn't put them on a map, we don't know really what that means. So I would have liked to see much more detail on that, right? And then if they're saying proximity is an issue, what about proximity to, the domestic violence shelter? So, what else? Size of the facility.
No, I'm sorry, so you're just being mindful of time, it's 9:30.
Gotcha, okay, so size of the facility.
He likes to be out of here at 9.
Well, I've work in the morning.
I like to be out.
Yeah.
So do we all.
I know you all like to be in bars until midnight, because we've all voted that it's normal to have a bar open until 2 a.m.
Did you see
So-
Kathy Hope?
Some get home at 11 or
Exactly. We all voted for that.
We all voted for that, so if you guys would prefer to decamp to the bar to discuss the issues of the day, you have my
A lot of
blessing.
folks work after 9 to 5. A lot of people get home at 10, 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
People do overtime. They
All right,
deserve
let's
it.
do- as to me-
Also, that's
So
not one
they
of the
deserve
things
it.
like
They do a drink afterwards?
3-hour
2 a.m.
meeting. That's
Yeah.
okay.
They get home at
Let's
midnight.
finish our
That's
meeting.
okay.
And
As
then
long
there
as
are
they're
people
all
like
right
us,
to
maybe
take
the
off
guy
the
wants to
bar.
go home and go
Come on,
and
keep
go
going,
swim
let's
the
go.
next day. He
Order,
doesn't want to be out of his way, and he doesn't want to know it's his way, and then the garbage goes down, and then the spillover.
Order. Okay, so they're saying that that the size of the site is considered appropriate
I'm very
for
clear on that.
140
Are we gonna
beds
make
for
it
single
work,
adults.
or is
Again,
it not gonna be
in order for us to really assess this, we need a site plan.
I'm just saying.
Adequacy of the
I'm just saying there's
streets
a lot
and
of communities that
transit,
are very careful.
as I said before,
They do not.
this area is
One second.
this area is served by public transit, so this is something for us to, to think about. Concentration of facilities providing similar services. Again, we really need an accurate count of the number of facilities in our district. So my recommendation, if we're not getting this from the city, first of all, you can foil, obviously you guys are challenging the adequacy of the fair share statement, and there are other communities that in Brooklyn that are doing the same thing. Sunset Park apparently filed a similar lawsuit earlier this month. So I think we will hopefully see the city provide more information about this type of thing. But if not, you guys should be compiling lists of everything that you know about. And let's get Dante to put something together.
Are we gonna reply back as a community board to the fair share that we requested and the inadequacies that we've seen it?
I certainly think we can, I don't know that, we have time right now to put together a group letter, but I don't doubt that Dante may reply back to them to request some additional information. Because for example, the names of the shelters in our district were just outright redacted. And I think that's an easy ask to
These
just
are
say,
people's
can you
homes,
unredact
guys.
it?
People live
But it's
there.
already-
You cannot just demand information about private residences.
Joshua,
This
it's already
we gotta
public.
be reasonable and on
I
earth, guys.
get that, but then how, I get that, but then how do you know what's the?
It's actually already public information insofar as
As you
all
can
of
go
those
on
shelters.
checkbook.com.
all of
and
those
you can go on
shelters. No,
Passport and find the
but also
contract.
all of
Yes.
those. But also all of
You
those
can
shelters
find out
came
where
to
I
our community board at some point.
Indeed.
Right? So
You can find out
actually,
where
that's
they
why I'm saying most of us already know about them. And the point isn't to blast it out publicly. The point is for the board and the committee members who are concerned about to be aware of this. right? And there's no reason why Dante can't put together that information. We're not asking him to put it on the e-blast. We're asking him to put it together for the district, right? Because like stuff that might have opened 10 years ago, like some of us still remember of it, but you know, maybe 5 years from now, other people won't know, right? And so we need for the district manager to keep this information, you know, especially if we don't want to blast it out publicly. We need for this board to maintain that information. Okay, necessary support services for this facility and its residents should be available and provided. You know, again, I think we need to find out what's in that contract. How many people are employed, who is employed, what is their job, and
You can go
know,
watch the
so on.
town hall that they did. They gave a presentation answering those exact questions. Who's staffing, who's there, what's the
Well,
security like, what types of services are available for folks.
We heard
They
that,
even
but
gave
we wanna
contact
see-
information
Okay, but we wanna
for
see
the
the
folks to
contract.
reach out to learn that.
We wanna see the contract, that if
Yeah,
if that's
because they
exactly
were
what
able
was
to
in the
see
contract.
that a lot of these
It's in the
services are
writing.
on site and there's no space for it.
If that's
Yeah,
exactly
if the
what they
number of
said,
men they're putting into the shelter, 2 per room, of people that don't know each other, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but if you're in a room with somebody you don't know, it can be, you know,
Volatile.
and then they don't have on-site services because the number of rooms and the number of men leaves very little, no room for these other services.
Again, it's one thing if you disagree with the information.
It's not that I
Or
disagree,
you
it's
don't like it.
just
It's
the way
another
it
thing
is.
to like allege that this is not being provided or that
Okay, so
something's under.
So
She's not alleging that, she's
It's
just asking for
contract.
Did
information.
a whole town hall.
we
Have to
understand
see the
that, and
contract,
if
they
what
never
they
They
see
put
said,
a bunch of
and
information
if
in
what
this
they
their
said,
analysis.
if what they said is
there's a
exactly the
lot
same as
missing.
what's in the contract,
Then
they
it's
can
not
also
done.
just give us the contract, right? Maybe it's because I'm a lawyer, I like to see everything in writing.
Do they have an obligation to give us the contracts?
Are you a party in the contract?
Why shouldn't they?
We're
So
Is that
does-
public
taxpayers.
information?
We
You
live
don't
here.
get to see every
Taxpayer
contract the
information.
city signs.
But our
There's
council,
actually-
our council person, our elected officials should be able to have access to something.
There's a website called
They didn't either.
passport.com. You can come in, you can search and get general information
We
about
know.
each and every contract. There's Checkbook NYC where you can search every payment that the city's making out to a vendor. So there's
And
databases
also-
and info,
And there's
but
also
like
FOIL, because the
in this
public
FOIL,
has,
you can
the
get
public
that,
has
but-
a right to know when public money is being spent.
Okay. But that's not what you're asking for. You're asking, first of all, you keep saying, we need to do, so, but you're not going any further than that, so. You're not really accomplishing
So,
anything by just,
the
you're just saying
district-
things.
So
Saying, we need to find out, so what are you gonna do about
Dante
it?
can write a letter, right, in reply to say, please still provide us with XYZ. That's what we can do.
Okay, so then you should do it, instead of saying we need, and you have to write down, okay, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna have Dante, because we need to do this, so how are we accomplishing it? Dante, you know what I mean? Each time you say we need to do something, you have to finish
I'm
it
also
with how
gonna-
you're gonna do it, how you're
But
gonna
I'm
do it.
also implying that the community can foil if they want to, right? I
they
mean,
know, they're already suing, they know their rights.
so whether the facility in combination with other similar city and non-city facilities within a half-mile radius would have a
I
significant
thought you said, Josh,
cumulative
it's okay for people to disagree with you,
negative
because when the guy
impact
was disagreeing with me, that was okay,
on
but when
neighborhood
people
character.
disagree with you, it's also okay. It's also okay.
Okay, so
You're
that
right, you
that's
got
where I think the other facilities would come in, because the women's shelter is not that close, it's not within 400 feet, but it is within a half mile.
Yeah, well, it's not within 400 feet.
It is probably 400 feet.
Whether the
You
site
really-
is well
that's
located
really
for
important.
efficient
That's
service
measured.
delivery, whether
That's
any
really something
alternative
you should get
sites
someone to
considered,
measure.
which
You
are
can
not,
measure your phone.
And
which
how
are
much was it?
community districts with lower ratios of residential facility
So it's
beds
above?
to
Okay.
population than citywide average, would add significantly, guys, you're gonna wanna hear this, listen.
Oh, she said this is.
Whether any alternative sites which are in community districts with lower ratios of residential facility beds to population than the citywide average would add significantly to the cost of constructing or operating the facility or would impair service delivery.
What page
So-
is that?
A lot of people tossed out, like, you know, neighborhoods that they think don't have any shelters. The question for the city is, are there sites there that would be more expensive or cost the same as this one? That's the question.
You don't understand, he just answered for you, it's already built, it's already there, of course it's the best thing possible. They have it already all built, the shelter's already there for them.
But that's not the question, right? Other districts may also have similar motels, right? So the question is, are the motels in those districts gonna cost more or the same or less? And are they located for quote unquote efficient service delivery? If it's, a mile from public transit, it might be rejected for that reason. But again, like I said, we really need to know more specifically what the reasons were that all these other sites, that the 50 sites that
So
were
what are you
rejected.
gonna do about it, how are you gonna find that out?
The district can write a letter to ask, and we might not get it. And, you all can also, ask, and you might get it.
What I would gently recommend, would we like to vote on something, or would we not like to vote on something?
We would not like
Yeah.
to vote on
Do we want to vote on, we're gonna vote on something, I think that'd be a great thing to do.
You can make a motion if you want.
I wouldn't vote on this, I don't know if people would wanna vote on, or we could adjourn, that's an option. Cause right now we're just reading this long letter, and like,
And we're not really accomplishing.
and we're not accomplishing much.
So do you guys wanna pass a motion? Cause we can pass a motion to have Dante write a letter to follow up on all
Alright,
this
I make a motion to have Dante write a letter requesting more information, including the data, what do you think? To request more information and updated information, current information, and the contract.
Can we-
Correcting some of the errors because
Updated information on the
errors.
best population.
they mentioned PV Manhattan CD9 ranking 9 out of 27.
All the criteria.
And the contract and what was the third thing?
All criteria that was used.
Yeah, it's gonna accomplish something here.
So detailed
Including
criteria.
supportive housing.
Yes.
No, I just needed like,
Nonprofit
Yeah.
shelters.
Section 9, is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly.
All of the details that are supposed to be part of the fair share analysis.
Okay,
of the
so
plan.
here's what I have. We want Dante to write a letter, a follow-up letter to DSS, asking for more information, including updated data on the beds to population ratio, including supportive housing, and future units.
what's future?
Two, we want details of the contract, between, or actually they call it a memorandum of understanding between Ramada and, the city and GSS.
But how do you know though that you're requesting something, how do you know if they have to give that to you, that information?
They don't unless you FOIL for it. And
We can
ultimately the
Can ask.
FOIL has to, like if they don't give you what you want, you have to sue. So that's why, that's why I didn't necessarily propose writing a letter, because we can write a letter, but I don't have high expectations
Yeah,
that we're gonna get.
I think it
the
looks good
lawyer
if it just
situation
goes
is what's
out.
gonna end up.
Doesn't
The
hurt.
people that didn't, that were successful in this, hire a lawyer.
Alright, I would like to second Teresa's motion for a vote.
Okay.
Exactly, let's go.
Yes, I'm so
Okay.
sorry guys, it's 9:45.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's ready.
You want a detailed information on all the criteria used to choose this site.
Detailed and up to date, cause 2015, whatever, is not gonna.
And reject the other sites. Okay. Alright, so
Okay, he's seconded already this.
motion, well, you can't, okay,
No,
so
he did.
motion
She
by
motioned.
I
Benny,
didn't.
or motion by Teresa, was it motion by Teresa?
Motion by Teresa,
Second by Max,
Max,
okay,
yeah.
let's
I'm not saying
vote.
anything, I'm not
Let's
saying
vote.
anything here.
Let's vote.
No, okay. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 2 no's and 1, 2,
I was a betting
3,
person,
4,
I know what I
5,
would be
6,
betting over
7,
here every
7
time.
no's. Okay, the motion
Did you
passes.
vote something?
I mean, if you're gonna agree to send us information, send accurate information and the detailed analysis.
I have a question. If we include the shelters around it that we thought they didn't include, how does that change where we sit in that fair share ranking of communities?
Because he's saying it doesn't.
Has anyone done that work to
He's
figure
saying
that out?
he's saying it doesn't. So we're saying get the amounts of the shelters and then we'll know for ourselves
No,
it
but I'm
doesn't.
saying, if we have shelters that we claim are not being counted, why don't we just count them? And
We have to
calculate
make sure
ourselves?
that we have a comprehensive list.
Another thing is to maybe go to the different state agencies and ask them for an accounting of shelters in the neighborhood as well, or different
Okay, you wanna do
facility.
that?
No, I don't believe in
Because
this.
he's voting no.
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, if
We
we
already
could-
know how hard it is to find this information, it's pretty, almost impossible.
I would like to motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, second?
Doesn't need a second for that.
I don't need a second, okay.
What about your paper mix? You should just leave it there.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful summer.
Well, I don't mean to cause trouble.
Sometimes you seem a little frustrated. Is that a hold back? Is that a hold back on the frustration?
I just say let him have all the information, then they can know. He's saying it's out there, but they don't see it on paper, and then it's in front of their faces, and then they're like, oh, let's count.
Thank you, you too.
Bye, everybody. Bye, bye.
That's my nature in general, and most of the time, against being true. So like, that's my nature. So I'm kind of agreeing with her that maybe there is a reason why it's late, but if not, if it's all
No
on a piece
festivity.
of
No more
paper,
drinking.
then it's all on my face. I can't be.
I mean, I suspect it's more that there are different. This info is silent.
Y'all partying out here.
You actually need someone who's like pulling everyone together, and that just it can be done, but it has to be
Professional person.
Dry bar, if you ask me, where the drinks at? I don't know.
I honestly, but I think that's, I think you need professional people, you need to hire that do this, it's kind of like a forensic.
The universe of data sharing agreements between agencies. Yes, it's very complicated.
I'm sure it is, but with AI and everything else that they magically wanna do now.
I'm telling you that unless you get hire people with information
Alright, back from that.
and hire people, bring in someone like